The life of Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci was born on April 15th, 1452 in the town of Vinci. Ironically, he was lucky to be born out of wedlock, or his story would have been much different. He would have been expected to become a notary like both of his illegitimate parents. However, since legally he wasn't their child, he chose his own career. His childhood was a strained one. His father refused to legitimate him as his own, and his illegitimate brothers felt entitled to their father's property. As a child, his curiosity was already showing, and he often pondered questions that most would stop wondering at about 8 years old. For example, why is the sky blue? Why do stars shine? This curiosity foreshadowed his scientific career in the future. He ran away from home many times as he wanted to see more of nature and its wonders. Leonardo was left-handed and adopted an odd form of writing where he wrote right to left instead of left to right, and as a consequence, his words came out backwards on the page. As the son of a notary, he naturally wrote journals about his discoveries and personal life. One of his first entries was taken as he was on a hike and a storm came. Despite his fears, he was forced to shelter in a dark cave. As he explored, he claimed to have come across a giant fossilized whale and wrote a short poem about it. Quote, "O mighty once living instrument of nature, your vast strength was to no avail." End quote. The last time Leonardo ran away from home was at 12 years old, and he ran away to the town of Florence. Leonardo was excited because Florence was the sort of epicenter of creativity at that point. Leonardo soon became the apprentice of a sculptor named Verrocchio. Leonardo learned under Verrocchio for 8 years as an apprentice and posed for many sculptures. Leonardo's prowess as an artist was shown in Verrocchio's painting Baptism of Christ, a representation of what the baptism of Jesus may have looked like. Verrocchio painted most of it, except for the angel on the far left and the legs of Jesus. Leonardo showed in this painting that he had indeed surpassed his master in the art of painting. Look at the angel he painted compared to Verrocchio's. Leonardo's angel looks alive, like it's taking up a 3D space. However, Verrocchio's looks flat, and the face is unrealistic, as the angel is looking directly opposite to everything that's happening. Likewise, look at the legs of Jesus compared to John's. Jesus' legs have depth, they are incredibly lifelike and realistic. But John's look awkward and out of place, as if the bones aren't set properly. Indeed, Leonardo had surpassed the master, and Verrocchio vowed to never pick up a brush again. He mostly stuck to it, as he never did another painting without Leonardo to help him. Leonardo da Vinci, after his apprenticeship with Verrocchio, stayed in Florence for a little while afterwards. He took many commissions to paint, but it was soon revealed that Leonardo was a major procrastinator and didn't finish any of his commissions. Many people tried to get him to finish a painting on time, but Leonardo would not comply. Soon he was forced to move to Milan, as he was left with almost nothing in Florence, as he had no way to get money if he could not stop procrastinating. He began to focus on science instead of painting and began to call himself an engineer. He drew many diagrams of possible defenses and fortifications for castles. Marcus Vitruvius Pollio was born around 80 BC and was an architect of war weapons for Caesar and wrote books about architecture and anatomy. This caught the attention of Leonardo and his friend Francesco di Giorgio. This followed an analogy that Leonardo found interesting, defining the macrocosm of Earth compared to the microcosm of man. That human beings were like miniature planets. Leonardo wrote, quote, "The ancients called man a lesser world, and certainly the use of this name is well bestowed, because the body is an analog of the world." End quote. Vitruvius talked about how a well-shaped man should be perfectly symmetrical, and there must be a precise relation between its components. Vitruvius described these in great detail. He talked about many different measurements of man. Many people attempted to sketch this model as Vitruvius described, but no one could get this quite right. But finally, after studying this model and sitting with people who attempted to copy it, Leonardo sketched his version, and the result was fantastic. His Vitruvian Man had all the proportions perfectly. He wasn't tentative with his strokes, he was sure and stabbed hard with his pencil. This proved his prowess as a sketcher. Leonardo was very scientifically inclined as well. He never had a formal education, so he prided himself on learning all he knew through experiment, instead of reciting knowledge passed from another. He conducted many experiments and had many observations, as well as a very keen eye. He studied dragonflies and was able to accurately describe the way it flapped its wings. He got close to figuring out why the sky is blue and why stars shine, and overall was a very scientific person. He dissected many dead bodies and researched anatomy. One day, while dissecting an old man, he discovered the disease called arteriosclerosis, where plaque builds up on the veins connected to the heart and blocks them up, causing heart failure. This and many other things were recorded in his notebooks. Leonardo mostly didn't paint between his time in Florence and now. He took many commissions, but he never finished any of them. He took a commission to paint Lisa, wife of Francesco del Giocondo, not to be confused with Francesco di Giorgio. Leonardo took the commission and worked on it for the rest of his life. He never finished, despite how much it may have seemed like it. Leonardo held on to it for 16 years, modifying it and adding more to it, but sadly he never considered it finished. When he died, the final product was gorgeous. This was the pinnacle of Leonardo's art, the sum of all of his work, and the result is astounding. The Mona Lisa looks so lifelike, so real, and her eyes seem to follow you. Even if the visage is yellowed with age and the oil is cracked, it is still an amazing image. It is fantastic how he painted the enigmatic eyes and smile. Leonardo worked his whole life, and his final major work would become the most famous and recognizable portrait in the world. At the end of Leonardo's life, he traveled to France. He knew it would likely be his last trip, as he was too old to travel any further. There he met the King of France, a young king ever eager to learn whatever he could. He became a sort of student to Leonardo, and learned from who could very well be the most brilliant man of their time. Leonardo taught him all about his scientific research, and the king was quite fond of the painter. The king gave Leonardo all the privileges possible. He could come in and out of his abode as he pleased. Leonardo never took any more commissions, he mostly wrote in his journal. The final entry was a passage about angles. Leonardo ended the passage abruptly and stated, quote, "The soup is getting cold," end quote. The last thing he ever wrote, as the next day he died in the king's arms. Leonardo da Vinci was no less than a genius of his era. And even in his death, there is some mystery to it. We can't see his life in clear shapes and lines, and we shouldn't want to. We should look at the world as he did, with respect and curiosity for its infinite wonders.